shop, Island Trooper 4x4 here. Today we are bringing you a special video because we promised you guys a cool tool video, didn't we? That's right, today we are dealing with the Bolt Buster. And how lucky are we? Today we've got a cameraman. I'm not going to reveal his name, but I'm going to tell you he's a giant. Anyways, let's get to the Bolt Buster because this is truly a cool tool. You can check more out about the Bolt Buster at www.boltbusterinc.com. And what's in the box, guys? What's in the box? Well, here we open it up. We got some pretty funky attachments here. Lots of information to go with. And of course, some instructions. Read me first. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, so the cool tool basically boils down to what looks like a silicone tube. And what you have here is some pretty high technology. There are circuit boards, transistors, resistors, coils, and all sorts of funky electronics inside. And from there, you have a variety of attachments. And what you're doing is you're hooking up any kind of attachment to suit the seized fastener that you want, or any kind of application where you need to heat something. And so in this case, we're using it as a bolt buster to free up some seized bolts. So you take your coil and you basically attach it inside with a couple of these keeper locks, and then you just put it over top of the bolt. So today we've got this Specimen on the ground down here. This is a Flow Pro muffler, which is possibly one of the strongest mufflers I've ever seen for a trooper. It feels like it is heavy schedule pipe rather than some thin sheet metal shit. And I want to get these brackets off of here. So, I mean, you guys have all fought with exhaust brackets. Yes, I could cut them off. But today we're just going to talk about getting seized fasteners apart. And so we're going to just use this as a specimen. We're going to pick out one of our bolt buster attachments that's about the smallest size. Those are just a 14 mil hex head bolt on there. And I'm just going to get the bolt buster ready here by putting the two tabs in. I'm going to lock it down on both sides. And then I'm going to plug it in. Ooh, am I ill prepared without an electrical cord? Let's get one. Maybe just show them that. And then we're also going to work on this right here too, which is a truly seized fastener. What did I use for an electrical cord? Alright, got this guy right here. Alright, so that is a sway bar link that is truly seized up at the top here. You can see how I've tried to extract it, and I've hit some really rusty threads at the end. Of course, because of this type of fastener, we have a hex insert, and you can't really stick a socket on there or it just rotates all by itself. So rather than to destroy it, because the sway bar link itself is actually still good, I'm going to actually work with the bolt buster to extract that. Let's get this baby plugged in and see what kind of juice we've got. Alright. I've got my pretty lame extension cord here. So, with any seized fastener, one of the first things I'm going to do... Okay. Alright guys, so we're going to go through a couple of methods here just for breaking seized fasteners. We're not just going to play with the heat induction tool, which is genuinely a super cool tool. But I don't want to talk too much because I've listened to some of my own videos lately, and I talk too much. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with a wire brush, and I'm going to brush these threads, right? And I just want to knock off whatever corrosion I can, whatever scale and debris. So we start with a wire brush. And we can either use some penetrating lube or not. We can go with the bolt buster right away. And you don't have to try and crack the nut immediately after using the bolt buster. The other cool thing about the bolt buster is that everything is flexible. And so, yeah, I can put the heat on there, and the idea is that the bolt buster is going to heat the bolt, it's going to heat the nut, but it's not going to transfer the heat down into the parent metal. And there are lots of sensitive situations where this is going to come in super handy, like if there's any rubber or a nylon bushing or anything like that behind the bolt. And so you don't have to crack it right away. You can put the heat in, and then you allow it to cool down and contract. As the metal heats up, it's going to expand. As it cools down, the molecules are going to contract. That action alone can help you break off the seized fastener. But another method, and I recommend this as part of getting a seized fastener to free up, another method is shock. So any rusty fastener that's got that rust scale on there is going to respond a little bit by shock. So I'm going to hit it with a hammer. You guys got ear protection? I keep warning you about that PPE, right? And so the shock to the fastener is minuscule, but when you're dealing with a heavier bolt, you know, that hammer is going to come in really handy, and you do need to hit it pretty hard. And there is another method. I'm just looking for my punch right now. I'm going to grab just any kind of hard steel punch, and I'm going to hit the fastener with it. And so, you know, just imagine, you know, whatever fastener that you have that is seized, and I can get that punch right in on the head, and then I'm just going to hit it. And that's one method of helping to break out a rusted fastener, is that you're sending that shock through the metal and down to the threads, and you're just trying to free up anything down there that you can. So here we get the heat induction tool, good old bolt buster, and you can see the button on top here. It definitely explains that it's for professional use only, but if you can afford one of these, wow, what a fucking awesome tool. And so I just hit the button, and you can feel vibration through the body of the bolt buster, but you can also hear the fan working in the back. It's got a little fan back there, and now you can see smoke. It's starting to smoke down there, and you can see the fastener. You see where the rusty bolt, the threads are starting to turn black. It's putting a lot of heat in there fast, and that's the whole deal. Now I move it to the other one, fire it up. This all occurs within seconds. This is one of the fastest heating tools I've ever seen. And so I hold that on there for 10 to 20 seconds, and it's really starting to act right away. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some Move It on there, and that Move It is going to start to work with the heat. It's going to evaporate a little bit right away. You don't want to breathe that in unless you plan on getting really stoned today. I shouldn't say stoned, it's more like toxic shock syndrome. And then I can throw the bolt buster back on there, and I can heat up that bolt again and get that Move It to start to work its way down. All penetrating lubes respond to heat quite well, and it aids them in spreading over the metal surface. Again, throw that on there. We're starting to get a little smoky in here. I might open the garage door. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to do that right now, just because I don't want to gas out my cameraman. And so now I'll just throw on the socket, get the air ratchet going, and let's extract that baby. Boom. I'd have been all day on that shit with a wrench, right? Anyways, bolt buster, super cool. Let's see how it works on a genuinely seized fastener. We're working on a Honda Minivan over here, and we're putting in new McPherson struts. And down in here we've got the sway bar links, and they are super unhappy. Right in here, I don't know if you can see this, right towards the end of the fastener, the threads are really chopped up. And so I'll just pull my tool out of here. You can see it's got the hex head end. I mean, these take so much shit and abuse from the road, right? So one of the ways that I'm going to use my vibration shock, again, is by hitting it with a punch. And so I've got myself a little punch here. I'm just going to stick that right in the center, and I'm going to hit it. I mean, if my shock method wasn't working, you wouldn't see all this dust and stuff falling off. It definitely works. And so I send some shock through there. Careful not to allow my punch. I don't want my punch to actually flare the metal. You know, like on certain fasteners you would not want to expand the outer diameter. And so now that I've got that, I've got a couple more friends, wire brushes. And so I'm working on that seized fastener just by trying to clean that up. That bugger's too big to fit in the hole, isn't it? But I want to get as much of that rust off as I can. So I'm just going to clear it off to the best of my ability. I might be able to turn this whole works just by getting on there with my wrench, which is a 17. And if I don't hold it or keep, oh look at that, it just twisted because I've already got those threads kind of broken. So I do have the first part of the threads broken. It's the later part that I start to have trouble with. A little difficult to get a socket in here while I've got the Allen key, but I could do it right now just to back that off for speed's sake. Sometimes you just got to get in there with what you got and go for it. 8/10 of mechanical work is just fucking doing it, right guys? We can talk about it all day, but eventually we got to get in there and we got to just do it. So I'm not even reaching for the air ratchet. I'm just going to grab this wrench and keep going. Okay, so now I'm getting it to turn. You can see the actual inside is starting to rotate. So now I've exposed the threads that I wasn't able to get at. And I want to give them a really vigorous wire brushing, and I want to try and get those bristles in between the threads. Now let's grab our bolt buster and throw him on there. I could put a bigger coil on, but that kind of fits around there nice and snug. As soon as I hit the button, it's going to take 10 to 20 seconds for that to really start to work. And you can see what's going on in there. There's even shit boiling inside the middle. And so this is one of those cases where there's, you know, I hate these sway bar links, but there's a nylon ball and cup back there, metal ball, nylon cup. And I fucking hate those things, but I don't want to destroy this set. You know, I don't want to have to explain to my customer that I couldn't get it off. Because to me, a seized fastener is a fucking challenge. You're on, let's do it. So I'm going to grab some Move It while that's nice and warm. Spray that in there. Again, do not breathe this shit. If you want to just pan here, you can see I've got a fan set up. I do have an exhaust fan in the shop. I'm not going to worry about that right now, but get some fans going to try and blow those vapors where you want them to go, not inside your face. And so now I'm going to let it cool down a little bit, let those molecules kind of settle down a little bit. And as it contracts, I'm hoping that that's going to break. Now would also be, as it's cooling down, that would be a good time to hit it with the punch and the hammer. So let's give that a couple of goes and see if we can free that up a little bit. Oh. Boom. Alright, so now I'm going to get my Allen key in there and I'm going to see if I can succeed in just propping that Allen key in a way that it's not going to turn. That's why I've got the screwdriver up through here like that. Get that in there so it jams in. You know what? That bolt buster might have done the trick, because it's starting to feel a whole lot smoother than it was earlier. When I was taking heavy-duty mechanics training, my instructors definitely talked about seized fasteners on a regular, because when you're working on heavy-duty equipment, this is something you come across all the time. So your skills to remove seized fasteners definitely will go a long way in a mechanical career. Now the other thing I can do right now, because I'm feeling a lot of tension on the threads as I start to back it all the way out, is I can reverse and I can start to go back the other direction. And you're wondering, well, why would I put it back on? What I'm doing is I'm kind of chasing the threads, and if, you know, whatever crap is built up in the threads that's causing all that friction, I'm chasing it a little bit and trying to get some of that to fall out. It's like setting tap and dies. I've talked about this before. You know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and now I'm just going to go for it. You want to pay attention to your tools in your hands to see whether or not you feel anything like the actual fastener is twisting. At that point, you're starting to go too far, and you might actually twist the head off, or the bolt. You might actually shear the bolt itself. Oh, I just popped my Allen key out. So I'll get that back in there. Thank God they don't put sway bar links like this on Troopers. Oh boy, I may have actually... We're getting really close, fellas. Now the other option is I can just destroy this and bill my client for it. But if I've got the skills to get that off, then why would I want my client to have to buy a new one? Because there's really nothing wrong with the link itself. So, being a mechanic who prides myself on doing a good job for my client and providing them with fair value, I'm going to continue to work on this. It does become a bit of a conversation as to how much time you're going to spend. You know, in order to achieve your goal, are you spending more labor time than than it's actually worth? You know, like it might be cheaper just to buy a new link. And in this case, my hex head on the end of my Allen has started to strip in the hole. So I'm having a lot of difficulty with this particular type. I might be able to get in behind with a set of vice grips and just grip that, which is what I'm going to do. If I can find those vice grips. One of my needle nose vice grips. And they are in a toolbox somewhere in here. There we go. Alright. So I'm going to damage the threads a little bit behind here, but it's not going to be something that I can't overcome just by driving the nut back on. When you're working on your Trooper, anything that's under the body of the Trooper is going to be one of those things that you're going to end up fighting, you know, rusted fasteners. Anything towards the rear of the Trooper, oh no, those vice grips are slipping. Anything towards the rear of the Trooper, heavily corroded. The fender bolts, those 10mm fender bolts, oh boy. Well, let's hit it with a bolt buster again and see if we can break it out. She's not so happy, this one. Within seconds it starts to smoke again, hey? So, like, this tool works within seconds. I'm pretty impressed with this thing. Do not touch electrodes or attachments. They may be hot, huh? Don't wear any metallic objects. Do not use on any flammable containers. Always wear gloves when working. Always wear safety glasses. Don't have any pacemakers, electromagnet in use. Right, there it's starting to smoke. And I'm going to let that cool a little bit. Pull the bolt buster off. It's a shame that that hex inside rounded out. That is going to be a little bit tricksy to get off now. I don't know if I can get that vice grip on there any tighter. I could stick a second set on. Except for I don't have the room to. Alright. Oh, what size is that puppy? 18, 19? No, I can't even barely see that thing. But I know if I get a big enough room. Alright, so that's cooling down, and it may actually come off here because I've just discovered that I have another way to grab onto the back here. There is a hex head, which I didn't know about on these links. Alright, let's see if we can get somewhere with this puppy. Just making sure my wrench don't fall off. Catch that there. All right, it is coming off. Look at that, fellas. We're going to win this one. And I love to win. Give me a machine that I can't fix. That's what I want. I didn't say computer. I said machine. And there it is, fellas. We win. These fasteners fucked over by the bolt buster. Look forward to our next video where we play with a bore scope. We're going to stick that right down into some spark plug holes, and that's going to give us a chance to inspect the combustion chamber as well as the valve train on the head above. Super cool tool. Just like the bolt buster. Also super cool tool. Remember, fellas, keep the rubber side down.